Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I congratulate you on being re-elected with bipartisan support to your esteemed office for a second term. I stand here humble and proud to have been elected by the people of Hinkler as the 1,248th member of the House of Representatives and 5th member for Hinkler. No matter where my house has been, Hinkler has always been my home. I am Bundaberg born and bred. I have volunteered in my community for over 25 years on sports, not-for-profit, school and church boards. I've had the unique privilege of serving my community in all 3 levels of government: local, state and now federal. This is an honour that only 5% of those who have been elected to the Australian Parliament since Federation have come to realise. I thank the people of Hinkler for putting faith in me to represent them in the 48th Parliament of Australia. As I received my lapel pin and electorate medallion from the Sergeant-at-Arms just a few weeks ago, I declared they're going straight to the pool room. A quote from the iconic character Darryl Kerrigan in the 1997 classic Australian movie The Castle. The Kerrigan family are the epitome of Aussie battlers that you can find in every electorate across our great country, the people who we all represent. The Castle and its famous one-liners have provided plenty of joy and laughter to my 2 daughters over many years. My girls are my proudest achievement. My wife Sharon and I have raised Talia and Maddie in our castle, a 6th generation of Batts in Bundaberg. While we have never had the fortune of living on the edge of an airport runway, Sharon and I started our journey together at Bundy High School Social in 1988 and have been married now for over 32 years. Without the love and support of Sharon, Talia and Maddie, I wouldn't be standing here today. Both sides of my family first settled in Bundaberg region in the later 1800s. My parents, Rod and Lynn, are my heroes, salt of the earth. I had the honour of writing my very first congratulatory speech and message as member for Hinkler back on the 12th of June to my mum and dad. To celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary. Mum suffers from macula and is legally blind, and Dad is her carer. Although she can see shapes and outlines, it's difficult for her to see faces in detail. A few months ago, the family welcomed Mum and Dad's first great-grandchild, Olivia Grace Batt, my nephew Anthony and his wife Naomi's first child, and they live in Brisbane. So Mum struggled to see the photos of Olivia, even blowing up on the iPad, so we brought her around to my place to see if she could see them on my big screen TV. We knew the answer when Mum's face lit up and tears welled in her eyes as she touched the TV screen where Olivia's face was. We all looked at each other with lumps in our throat, including Dad. Within a week, Dad had decided his 60th anniversary present to Mum was a 98-inch smart TV of their own, so Mum could enjoy all the photos she wants. Interesting enough, it was also seemed to get a good workout on the weekends when Dad has Fox Sports on as well. The tyranny of age, illness and distance has prevented Mum and Dad from being here today, but I know they'll be watching on that 98-inch TV as long as one of the families dropped in to show Dad how to log in online. Mum and Dad, I hope you can see the pride on my face and hear the love in my voice for both of you today and always. Some of my earliest memories are of them both working around the clock for my 2 brothers and me. Mum and Dad had a convenience shop and petrol station on Mount Perry Road in North Bundaberg. They instilled in me the importance of community service and working hard. Later, we had a newspaper run, and it wasn't uncommon to be woken in the early hours when the wrapping machine broke down or the delivery boys called in sick. So, bleary-eyed, it was out of bed and straight into it, all hands on deck to get the papers delivered on time. Dad was knocked off his motor scooter one day, badly dislocating his hip. It put him out of action for months. It was hard for our family, but out of the pain and disappointment, Mum and Dad bought 200 acres to run cattle as an income stream for the family. Born on the land, not far out of Bundy, for Dad this was a natural fit for him to get back to a place he loved, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing than working alongside him. We would clear the paddock of basalt boulders by hand to plant pasture, buy and sell cattle and learn how to drive in a little 2-person blue Suzuki ute. We also spent a lot of time at Kendall's Flat Junior Cricket Grounds at East Bundaberg, where Dad was instrumental in transforming an old dump site into an 8-field cricket facility. Our weekends were spent maintaining the grounds, and Dad was awarded life membership of the Bundaberg Junior Cricket Association, and Field 8 is named in his honour, Rod Batt Oval. Dad is the toughest bloke I know. On school holidays, I was given the job to mow the fields on a tractor and slasher, which took 8 hours, and Mum would bring me lunch and a drink halfway through while I gave the slasher a rest. Mum made our 3-bedroom weatherboard house a home. We lived close to Walkervale State School, and she had to contend with her 3 energetic sons and our mates after school. There was never any doubt how much Mum loved us boys. Nothing was ever too much to ask. My older brothers, I made sure I got that in, Paul and Peter, are very fortunate, and myself. Ours was a happy childhood. The weekends were busy for the Bats. As well as taking us to our loved sports of cricket, rugby league and soccer on Saturdays, most Sunday mornings Mum would take us boys to church at St Mary's. This formed the cornerstone in my faith journey. Mum and Dad's love for the family was passed down through the ages. It's clear how the apple hadn't fallen far from the tree. Mum was an only child, born and raised at 54 Victoria Street, which my pard built after returning from New Guinea in World War II. Pard, or Roy, was a plumber for Bundaberg Council and rode his push bike around town with a tool pouch hanging over the handlebars until he was upgraded to a work vehicle with 4 wheels. Nan, or Beth, kept the house with precision and pride. My earliest recollection of going over to their house, which continued into my adulthood, was the tranquility. It was just so quiet, unless Pard was playing the piano, which he learnt by ear. I can still hear his signature tune, which he composed himself. I can also taste that corn relish on country cheddar biscuits, more often than not served up for morning tea. Nan and Pard lived together in that home for more than 65 years, until the day I sat with Pard as he took his last breath in 2007. I scored my first car from Nan and Pard, a 1982 Mazda 929. It even had electric windows. Very fancy for a 17-year-old. Dad was from a much larger family. He's one of 7 children. And in between the paper runs and running the farm, as children we went to Nana Batt's every Sunday and met up with our cousins, uncles and aunts. We would settle in at Nana Batt's at 3 Bellevue Street for dinner. I clearly recall the roar of the crowd at the local rugby league played at Salter Oval just 1 street away. It was a fitting and real-life soundtrack while watching the Brisbane League on the ABC. And then it was time to settle in for the news and, of course, countdown. The contrast of these 2 favourite places of mine was not lost on me. The quiet and peace at Nan and Pard's to the hustle and bustle of Nana Batt's. It was a beautiful balance and both equally important to my childhood. Mr Speaker, my brothers Paul and Peter have both dedicated more than 35 years to teaching and the Queensland Ambulance Service. Every time someone asks me if I'm related to either of them, I know there is a positive story to come. Like my brothers and even Dad and Nan, I attended Bundaberg State High School. I still live by the school's motto, per ardua ad astra, which means through hard work, the stars. As soon as I turned 15 and was old enough to get a job, I started working part-time at Woolies. The deli was my specialty. I intended to become a PE teacher when I finished high school, but it wasn't to be. A chance meeting steered my life on a different path. After speaking with Sergeant Bubb at a careers night in Year 12, I applied to join the Queensland Police Force. Each year there were hundreds of applicants but only 100 cadet positions. So I didn't think I stood much of a chance. I was wrong. I didn't want to be a financial burden on my parents, so I deferred my human movements degree, and in 1989, straight out of school, I decided to give the police force a go. I left home and moved to the Oxley Academy in Brisbane. I became a detective, and for more than 11 years I solved crimes like the Childers Backpacker Hostel fire, which was recently commemorated after 25 years, and the tragic murder of British backpacker Caroline Studdle. I was a police officer and detective for almost 20 years before entering my political life. Through policing, I witnessed the best and worst of society, and it took a toll on me and my colleagues defending the thin blue line. This is the reason I stepped up and volunteered as a police union rep and then as a peer support officer for almost 15 years of my policing career. I met the now state member for Burnett, my good mate Stephen Bennett, through Rotary Club breakfast meetings held at the Police Citizens Youth Club, or PCYC, where I was the manager. In 2007, with Stephen's support and encouragement, I joined other young professionals on a Rotary Group study exchange to Nottingham in England. I was not prepared for how much this life-changing 4 weeks would open my eyes to the things we could do better in my hometown of Bundaberg and, in fact, across Australia. I thought I'd be a copper until I retired, but out of the study tour I developed a strong desire to see my community thrive. I stepped out of my comfort zone and nominated for the 2008 local government elections. To my surprise, I won the 5-horse race for Division 8. That's where political life, for me, began. I served 3 terms as a councillor and Deputy Mayor for the Bundaberg Regional Council between 2008 and 2017. Mr Speaker, so this place I grew up in, the electorate of Hinkler, is my home. It has and always will have my heart. From where the humpback whales play in waters off Hervey Bay, the world's very first whale heritage site, to the historic township of Howard and the beautiful Burham Heads. There are the friendly townships of Torbanlea, Riverheads and Buxton, the popular coastal locations of Woodgate and Bargara. Childers sits on the Bruce Highway, surrounded by the beautiful red soils that feed our nation. More than 30 different fruit and vegetable crops. Then on the horizon you see the steam from the sugar mill as you weave your way through the cane paddocks and macadamia orchards to Bundaberg, where we know how to make a famous tipple or two, including our cane champagne. Then off to the shores of Monrepo, where the turtles continue to return and lay their eggs. I love this place. How's the serenity? Mr Speaker, I know I could have been a better son, brother, husband, father and friend to those I love. Life is about learning from your mistakes, owning them, seeking forgiveness and working towards being a better version of yourself each day. About 10 years ago, I returned to regular Sunday Mass at Bundaberg's Holy Rosary. It gave me the opportunity to understand my life much better, to listen, learn and love. I try each day to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, to give of yourself, to love unconditionally and serve your community. To be a voice for the voiceless, help those that are helpless and give comfort to those struggling in their lives. Taking time to appreciate the simple things, to look up at the full moon and stars, take in the sunsets and don't get caught up in life itself. Find gratitude in the little moments each and every day, one step at a time. As Matthew wrote, so do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. When Talia and Maddie were born, Sharon and I made it our ambition to ensure we could get them both through school and university and set them up for their lives ahead. We couldn't have done it without the love, care and support of Sharon's mum and dad, Barb and Doug, and brother Brad, as well as my mum and dad and the Batt clan. The girls, uncles and aunties and cousins have all been part of their journey, and we are so blessed that we are all such a close family group. Although it was sad to see both girls leave home, only in the last 2 years, Sharon and I are so proud that they are both set up for whatever path they choose. Both have loving partners, wonderful careers and have purchased their first homes. To walk my youngest Maddie down the aisle, or the road, a few weeks ago at her fairy tale wedding to our new son-in-law Zane was such a proud dad moment. Mr Speaker, I understand the pressures of elected office. As a former councillor, Deputy Mayor and State MP, every action of mine has been on display for public scrutiny. No more than in January of 2013 with the record-breaking Bundaberg floods. People of my community were rescued from the roofs of their homes. Devastation was everywhere you looked, as the Burnett River roared and broke its banks due to the deluge associated with ex-tropical cyclone Oswald. There was destruction to over 2,000 homes, 600 businesses and major issues with community infrastructure. North Bundaberg had the largest mandatory evacuation in peacetime Australia. Some 7,500 residents were evacuated. More than 20 military and civilian helicopters winched hundreds of people to safety from their rooftops, and not a single life was lost. While the disaster, response and recovery were not without issues, Bundaberg's response is still used as a case study in disaster management circles right across Australia. It is something everyone who was involved in should be very proud of. Coordinating the disaster recovery as the then Deputy Mayor of Bundaberg was the single most challenging task in my professional career. I worked around the clock to assist people who were traumatised and enduring the hardest time of their lives. I was honoured to receive Rotary's Paul Harris Fellow for my leadership and humbled that the late federal member for Hinkler, Paul Neville, attributed some of Bundaberg's positive recovery and response to my efforts. While I had always enjoyed positive working relationships with our local MPs, as recovery coordinator, I also established good rapport with various ministers, including our newly elected Queensland Premier, David Crisafulli, who was, at that time, the Minister for Local Government, Community Recovery and Resilience. David's no-nonsense attitude during the recovery was a breath of fresh air and changed my mind about what state government was capable of. I, for one, will never forget the commitment he showed to rebuilding Bundaberg well after the floodwaters had subsided and the television news crews had lost interest. That is the reason I took a leap into state parliament. Reflecting on my term in state politics from 2017 to 2020, representing the people of Bundaberg was a special time. I was only the second member of a Conservative political party to have held the state seat since it was created in 1888. In 2017, I was the first to call and fight for a new hospital, and it's on its way. I called for an inquiry into the problems facing Paradise Dam, and now it's being rebuilt to secure water for our farmers. The state stint only lasted the one term. My bid for re-election came down to the finest of margins. After the recount, just 9 votes. The year was 2020. The loss in this state election absolutely gutted me, both personally and for my staff. We had committed so much to building a better community. The lesson learnt, every vote really does count. The silver lining through all of this was a chance to reset and recharge. The break following the Queensland election did so much good for me mentally and spiritually. I took 6 months off work to reflect, reconnect and reorder my priorities. It gave me more time for my family, friends and to volunteer in my church life. I'm still rostered on once a month to clean and vacuum Holy Rosary Church. The pain of an election loss eased as I realised that God had another plan for me. I'm a giver. I always have been. But from this moment, it wasn't going to be with my colleagues in state parliament. Those who I'm proud to call my friends, including my first-term colleagues of 2017, the now Queensland Police Minister Dan Purdy, Jim McDonald, member for Lockyer, the member for Nicholson, Marty Hunt, and Transport Minister Brent Mickelberg, as well as my old committee buddy, now Speaker of the House, Pat Weir, and of course Queensland Premier David Crisafulli. My term in Queensland Parliament gave me fuel and a desire to keep making a difference in my community. Mr Speaker, I've spoken about the 3 levels of government and the honour it has to be now served in each. A neighbour and friend of member for Flynn, Colin Boyce, has also achieved the trifecta. I had the honour of sitting next to Colin in the Queensland Parliament, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with him here, this time in the 48th Parliament of Australia. In the period between my time in state politics and earlier this year winning pre-selection for the LNP in Hinkler, I had the role of Community Resilience and Disaster Management Officer at Bundaberg Regional Council, a role that drew on my experiences from 2013. Earlier this year, as I made the decision to nominate for the seat of Hinkler, I was still working full-time in preparing my community for the impact of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Alfred did strike my community, and the most telling impact locally was the inundation of 1,600 homes and businesses in Hervey Bay. Record-breaking flash flooding surprised everyone and led to a recovery that is still ongoing today. A recovery in Hervey Bay I will support to the end. Mr Speaker, today I stand here and reflect on those who have laid the platform and left a legacy in the seat of Hinkler. While the electoral boundaries have changed throughout time, Hinkler was created in 1984. It was named in honour of pioneering aviator Bert Hinkler. Born in Bundaberg in 1892, the son of a mill worker, Bert was the first to fly solo from England to Australia, a feat achieved in 1928. He built his first glider in Bundaberg, and while bin chickens get a bad rap today, it was the humble ibis that inspired his creation. At the time, Bert was considered by many the most daring man in the world. He epitomised the strength of those I represent. It might be almost 100 years since Bert's historic flight, but his determination, ambition, strength and passion are all traits instilled in the people of Hinkler. I'd like to acknowledge the former MPs who have held office and represented the seat we call Hinkler. The first was the late Brian Conquest, followed by Brian Cordis, then the late great Paul Neville, a stalwart of the National Party, and prior to the 2025 election, the almost 12-year term of my predecessor, Keith Pitt. Keith laid a platform for me and my team going forward. This quote from Benjamin E. Mays sums up my thoughts on Paul and Keith, who I'm proud to call my friends. We today stand on the shoulders of our predecessors who have gone before us. We, as their successors, must catch the torch of freedom and liberty passed on to us by our ancestors. We cannot lose in this battle. I'd like to acknowledge and sincerely thank all the Hinkler LNP members, supporters and volunteers who worked tirelessly throughout my campaign, especially my Hinkler campaign team. Mr Speaker, my vision is simple. People who live in the greatest country on earth should have the same opportunities whether they live in the city or country. I'm sure everybody in this chamber is here for a similar reason, to make the improvements required and leave behind a better place to the one that we entered. We must set an example in this House and debate policies, not personalities. I will ensure that this Bundy boy will also serve my community of Hervey Bay with passion and commitment. I am pleased to have secured an elected office in Hervey Bay. It has a population of almost 70,000 and it will be a priority of mine to ensure this important region of Hinkler is not forgotten. Global trade, defence in a volatile world, energy challenges, the digital transformation and the impacts of artificial intelligence. These are all very real challenges for all of us across this country, including in my community of Hinkler. I know the members sitting across from me, representing their communities, whether in the inner city areas of Sydney and Melbourne or even in other regional areas, want to improve the lives of their constituents. But this cannot be to the detriment of other areas and regions like Hinkler. Yes, all Aussies deserve a nice home, cheaper living standards, a fantastic family lifestyle, but please do not make decisions affecting other electorates that you wouldn't want to implement in your own. I'll always fight for my home of Hinkler to ensure we get our fair share, that there is support for small and family businesses to employ locals, that there must be action to address the cost of living. We must deliver more health services for regional Australia, find a balanced, affordable energy mix. Our veterans must be treated with respect and always supported, and I'll always back our rich and diverse agricultural industry as it continues to form the region's economic engine. I want to do what's right, not necessarily what's popular. For each of us granted this immense privilege to be in this, the 48th Parliament of Australia, I accept the great responsibility that comes with it. Mr Speaker, since Parliament opened last week, I have been privileged to have been able to listen to the first speeches of our class of 2025, kicking off with the member for Dixon and finishing this afternoon with the member for McPherson. What an eclectic lot we are. And yet there are many themes so similar right across this chamber. The love and support of family and friends, the want to give back to your community, and the vision to make this country a better place. And it's not just the class of 2025. I'm sure all in this chamber have had similar stories to tell. We are the leaders of this amazing free country. Each of our electorates form a unique part of the Australian fabric woven into our tapestry of life. We need to lead from the front, be the positive role models, like our mums and dads, nanas, nans and pards, and our fearless pioneers. Fight like Darryl did in the castle, not only for your loved ones, but for your community. I understand that being here is a privilege and not a right, so I make this commitment. I will serve the people of Hinkler with honesty, integrity and compassion for as long as they will have me represent them in this House. Thank you, Mr Speaker.